Let me just hear our voices. Things on to you. Okay. Things on to you. There shall be showers of blessing. Showers of blessing. I want you to put your hand on your chest and say, I am a blessing. I am a blessing. We shall showers of blessing. Father, we give you praise, we give you worship, we give you glory. Be exalted, Lord. Let it so be that in this season, Lord, we will see showers of blessings, outpouring of your goodness, grace for grace, for grace, for grace. That as each shower is pouring in, another one is following closely behind. That it will come home to us upon every way. Of your glory, of your presence, of your handiwork in our lives. And I will make them, for he has made you And the first is about my holy hill. This ministry, every ministry connected with this ministry, the body of Christ. And he will send showers of blessing in his season. For indeed there shall be showers of blessing. Give you praise. That's mighty name we pray. Worship.
Hello, everyone. Let me just confirm maybe by raising your virtual hand, or you can unmute to say something. And let me know if you can hear me and the audio is clear. Hello, can anyone hear me? Or can everyone hear me? Okay. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So we will just have to go ahead and start the sessions, and we'll look into, I mean, others can connect and join as well. So because we have to respect the time of people that have already joined. So introducing myself, my name is Moyosola Awuyokun. I'll be moderating this session. My background is in healthcare, and currently I work as a business change manager for an NHS trust in Birmingham. Prior to now, I studied at the Warwick Business School, where I obtained my master's in business administration. And before then, I was working in different capacities in Nigeria, health insurance. I ventured into entrepreneurship. I did a bit of consulting, and yes, worked in the clinic as well. My background is actually as a doctor. So moderating the session for Safe House. Safe House is actually a charity birthed by the International Chapel Coventry. And the idea is to give support to international students who are domiciled in Coventry and perhaps beyond, which we can do virtually. And the support is even like comes from understanding, your current location, understanding the spheres, and that's what actually birthed the webinar series. This is the second of the series. The first one was paneled by a seasoned relocator, right? So he has been in that council or local who had been here for 45 years. And for people that were in this session, he was able to share a lot of insights into navigating, understanding the environment, contributing to the environment, and also being successful in different areas. And as such, we went further to say, okay, this will be a series, and then we'll look at what will benefit the international students. And that's why this session will just be focusing on the job market, because a lot of people, once you finish from your academic endeavor, you would also want to transit to the job market. And this is what necessitates this session. There are people behind the scenes. First of all, a notable mention and thank an appreciation to Reverend Teju Alonge, who is the Associate Senior Pastor of International Chapel. She will I'll probably speak at the end of the session as she's in transit currently. She has been the powerhouse behind Safe House, and Safe House, support students by, contributing groceries to them in Coventry, and also giving support, spiritual, and other supports that people need. It's, you're just relocating the land. There's the, many people don't even have a community, but Safe House helps create that community. That is the friendly community that you have around, also support in whichever way they can support. So this session, we also have a couple of panelists that would be speaking to us, and I will do an introduction. First person I would like to introduce is Oluwabukola Oshadare. So she has also navigated the path most of us have done. She schooled also in Warwick University, and currently she is the operations manager in maternity for one of the university hospitals in an NHS trust. She studied healthcare operations management at Warwick University, and started a career in healthcare management as an assistant operations manager. She is well versed in hiring within the NHS, and she will be able to speak to us from the perspective of a job seeker, and as also as an hiring manager. She's has vetted many applications and sat on many panels, and she is been giving back to the international community. I think she's specifically targeted to Nigerians, by helping them with NHS interviews and applications. So it's a pleasure to have Olubukola here. Thanks for honoring our invitation. So the second person is actually a former classmate of mine in Warwick Business School, where he obtained an MBA. He is Okwe Simpson. Is an investment professional, currently a PhD economics candidate at King's College London. Is a finance guru. He has been in has had former investment risk manager at a pension fund with over 2 billion in assets under management. Okwe is a finance giant, actually. So he would also be discussing with us from the perspective of jobs in the corporate space, because I know a lot of people would have different targeted areas that they want to look at. So Okwe is well experienced in the corporate space and will be able to speak to us. Another person we have who will probably be able to speak at some point is Dr. Fisayo Abba. It's a double Abba. And is a PhD in public health and has been working in the NHS for over 10 years, currently working as a transformation manager at NHS Earth and West Essex, ICB, and technical analyst at NICE. NICE is the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. So she has also been helping people to write their transferable skills in CV to be able to get roles in the NHS. I will at some point share some contacts on how to reach them, just in case you need further clarification on what's been discussed. So just to confirm again, are we able to hear me properly? Just to confirm the audio. If so, someone can just pop in the chat, and so I'm sure that okay, I think I see a thumbs up. Right. So I also want to use this opportunity to welcome Osamudiame. Thanks for connecting. Sylvia, thanks for connecting. Esther, thanks for connecting. Alaba, also thanks for connecting. So what I will be going to, the next point of the agenda will be to give an overview of the job markets in the UK, and we'll be giving through my lens, my experience. So coming from Nigeria, I was a former regional manager for a health insurance organization, and I come with rich experience, across healthcare, um, clinicals, and technology, and also um, health insurance. So coming to the UK, I probably was a bit too confident for myself, and thinking my CV would just be able to get into anywhere. My target was actually get into LTech consulting following my graduation from the MBA. But I had to learn a lot of things because the job market in the UK is quite different. And as many of us probably would have been applying and having maybe a bit of rejection or not even hearing back from the roles we applied for, you will understand that probably, your CV needs to be tailored in a particular way. Currently, there are hundreds of thousands of job positions in the in UK, but why are people not getting it? All right, there are many reasons, right? And one thing I would want to tell people is, don't worry, it's not about you, right? And one thing is also peculiar for international candidates is the fact that you are looking to get a role that will also offer sponsorship. So the open jobs in the market kind of contract a bit, and you need to probably tailor into some particular sectors. Currently, currently healthcare is still like the biggest that people get sponsored roles from. Technology is also another sector people get roles from. Consulting is used to be the top role, but due to the recent immigration policies and also the fact that the economic situation in the country and the world, many things consulting sector is not as easy to get into as it used to be, unless probably maybe you have prior consulting experience where you were coming from. So those are probably the hot areas. Civil service is also another sector that is quite active for sponsored roles. And if you know of any other sector, that you can just pop in the chat and let us all just have that information. And as it is, it seems that the technology sector for the moment and healthcare sector are highest in demand, high demand roles. Project management is also an area that is quite high in demand. I also had to, I'm currently a business change manager, configuring EPR system for my trust. And I got into that role because I had to do an internship in business analysis, which helped me, understand project management from, the different methodology perspective. And, that helped me, secure the role, and I'm able to, what's it called? I'm able to deliver on the role. And interestingly, it's similar for many people that were in the internship as well, because they also got, either Scrum Masters, I know people that work in Jaguar, which are sponsored role too. Testing, that's quality testing, and developers as well, and data scientists. So it's an area that is quite high in demand in the market at the moment. So having said all these things, what gives you access to getting into that market is your CV, right? And that's one of the objectives of this webinar, is to help people get the basic of CV that will get you interviews, because you need to be able to even navigate that part. CV, tailoring your CV is quite an interesting thing, and it's a journey because it took me a bit of time to understand, how to properly tailor your CVs. I think in the UK over the past 3 years, I would have had more than 700 applications. You just apply and keep applying. At some time, I was doing almost like 30 a day, and you don't hear back, and then there's always just that rejection. At some point, I was able to understand that rejection is not about me. Of course, it hurts to be rejected, but it's not about me, right? But the question I want to ask is, what story are you telling with your CV? Because that's what you're telling the hiring manager, and also the recruitment manager. And another key important part, the ATS platform system. I think ATS is the application tracking system. You need to be able to get your CV past the application tracking system and the recruitment manager before it gets to the hiring manager, where in the conference of an interview. So we will also be speaking about optimizing your CV for the ATS system. And that will be the next section, which will be talking about essential elements of strong CV, which will be facilitated by Okpa Simpson. But one thing I want to say, if you don't get anything out of this webinar, one thing I want to advise is, and the question you ask yourself anytime you want to apply for a role, ask yourself, what story am I telling the hiring organization about myself? Does the story align with the job description that was posted? CVs look great. They really do look great. I remember my career coach in Warwick Business School was like, oh, you've had an impressive career. However, regarding this role, you might need to change a bit of things, because the hiring manager or the recruitment manager just want to know relevant things that will help you succeed in that role. So if you write all the beautiful things that you've done, but they are not relevant in that role, then they'll probably like, okay, maybe this person doesn't get it. And probably that will be the first test. So that question is quite important. What story am I telling the recruitment organization about myself? And that being said, I want to invite Okpa Simpson to facilitate this part of the coordinate this part, which speaks to essential elements of a strong CV. Okay. Okpa, you now have the floor. Okay, okay, I will have to. Are you able to unmute, Okpa?
Okay, yes, I'm now able to unmute. Hi,
Okay.
good morning, everyone. So I'm going to be taking this in two parts. Essentially, one thing we need to understand is the UK job market, particularly, I'm going to share my screen right now. The UK job market, particularly for immigrants, is divided into two sections. You have people that are starting their career, maybe have roughly like 5 years of experience before they came in. And then you have people that are on the other side of the spectrum where they are more qualified, i.e. they have more numbers of years. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm addressing the people that have slightly more years of experience. Sorry, Moya, I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly cut in if you could share your video. I mean,
Oh, I'm sharing my screen. I think I'm sharing my screen.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about yourself now.
Oh,
Your
okay.
camera.
Give me a second.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd have to stop sharing to do that. Please give me a second.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Can you see me now?
Oh, yes, I can see you.
Okay, let me just go
I'll
back to sharing my screen.
Okay, fantastic.
So, like I said, there are two segments. You have the individuals who are slightly more experienced, and then you have the people that are just at the beginning of their career. One essential takeaway I've learned is recruiters actually, or career coaches actually try and box everybody together. And so what they're telling you is when your career coaches are giving you feedback about your resume or what you should do about your resume, what you should keep in mind or bear in mind is that they're talking to the majority of people that they come in contact with in their day-to-day activities. And usually these are people who are slightly within at the beginning of their career, i.e. between 5 to 7 years. But once you cross that, then you have a different play entirely. What do I mean by this? You have people, when your career coaches are coming on to you, they're telling you you have to have a one-page CV. And honestly, a one-page CV is actually very fine. But you have to keep in mind that that would work most likely if you're at the beginning of your career. However, once you start getting more experience, then I'll advise a two-page CV, like what I have right here. My resume is tailored towards finance. So just bear with me, but it's applicable across most corporate organizations, unlike the public sector. Starting with the name, this might not be obvious everywhere, but once you start getting into some places, then you might have a bit of a name bias. I know your name is your name, but you have to also be cognizant that you're looking for work. So you have to make it easy on these people as well as yourself. I saw an individual on the call called Osamudieme. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it very well. But what I would advise is if you could shorten your first name, Osas. I know most people that have complex names like that, shorten it. It will make it easier, more relatable. Once you're not able to pronounce someone's name, it's almost hard to be able to relate with people. Even with my name as short as Okwe, I've been called Oprah before. I'm not sure how that has come about, but I've been called Oprah, and most people now call me Opi, which is fine with me, as long as you're able to pronounce a semblance of my name. Most people then go on to have their full address. I'm not sure I want to be doing that again. Although when you're filling out the forms, you might have to do that. But when I'm giving my resume, I just put London. And then you have the mobile number, email, and website. In this case, I put my LinkedIn. For the executive summary, you have to be very flexible. Now, what do I mean by this? There's a large even within the corporate world, if you are going into finance, you have to be able to speak to that particular role. And so what are you telling them in essence? Are you telling them, are you applying for, say, an investment banking role, but you're telling them you've done asset management before? Are you talking about risk management, but all what your experience is showing is project management, or you're talking about risk management, but what you're applying for is a project management role? This, I think, you have to be very cognizant of. So for me, I'm doing what I specialize in, and what I'm also sometimes on the lookout for is a risk management role within asset management. And my executive summary, my introduction basically states that, and it shows that I'm a risk and asset management professional with experience across commercial banking, investment banking, and asset management. And then it goes to talk about my attributes, basically pointing to me being able to do some of these things, work without supervision, and some of those other things. You have to be able to hit what they are looking for. When you look at the job description, you're not just talking to the functions, you're also talking to the other parts of the JD. The other parts might show whether they want someone self-starting. Most times you see language such as self-starting. You have to be able to speak to things like that. Depending on style, some people might put their education at the bottom, but for me, I'm putting mine at the top. I'm going to be very agnostic as to where you put that, but you have to be able to show, let them know what you've done over the period of time. Coming to experience, one thing that one rookie mistake I started doing early on when I was applying was I was essentially telling people where this experience was gotten or derived from. And eventually I found out that that wasn't the best practice. I would advise anyone writing a resume right now, wherever your experience is, please remove it from, if you have Nigeria or any place, Lagos, any of that, please just remove it from your experience. I'll give you an example. We have a classmate, Moya and I had a classmate. She worked with Subsea 7 because that's, I think, an oil and gas management company. And initially, she was putting Subsea 7 Nigeria there. However, she decided to take it out. And almost as soon as she took it out, she started getting calls. And why is that? Because Subsea 7 is a company that they can relate with. But when you put Nigeria, you're essentially limiting yourself. There's a bias that we're not here to focus on bias, but we need to be able to understand that these biases exist, and we are supposed to help as much as possible in removing those biases so that they see us for what we are worth and not where we are from or how our names are pronounced and any of those things. Present yourself as professionally as possible while helping them to remove any bias that they might ultimately have against you. Now, for experience, I know a lot of us have heard that we should, maybe from our career coaches, that we should have experience with maybe 3 bullet points for each job that we've had in the past, or each relevant job. One thing I want to go back to is what Moyo said about experience. I've worked in more places than I've listed here, but because what I'm doing in terms of my PhD and also in terms of what I'm looking for in future, I've removed all those non-essential roles, those roles that do not speak to what I'm aiming for. I've removed them, or even if I haven't removed them, I've modified them so that they become more into the role I'm looking for. So that's one thing we need to understand, ensuring that the jobs that we put in here for a project, for what we're looking for. Going back to a project management example, if you are applying for a project manager role, you can't say you've been a waiter, for example. Nobody is going to relate a waitress or a waiter with project management. It doesn't correlate, and you're just plugging up your CV with irrelevancies. So try as much as possible to remove those irrelevancies. Now, if you can structure your waiter job, if you can give your waiter job another name and basically point at it being a project manager role, that's all fair and good. But if you cannot, please remove roles that are not there. And even if you have to massage your resume a bit, say if there's a gap of say 2 months that you're unable to explain, try and cover it up. One thing you face shortly after you graduate is, if you don't wish this for anyone, but if you are after 6 months, you graduated 6 months ago, what have you been doing since then? You have to be able to justify and say what you have been doing in that time period when you have been looking for a role. And sometimes you might even have a justification that doesn't make it onto your resume. If it's something, say, for example, there was a time I was in a call center role. I never put that on my resume because I'm not looking for a role in customer service. That's not my focus. So that role hasn't featured on my resume at all. But when they're asking me sometimes why there's a gap of, say, a month or two or something, I let them know that, oh, I was doing a role, a call center role that doesn't immediately meet the job specifications, and which I do not think is relevant on my resume, but this is what I've been doing. So it's better to talk about it offline than for it to appear in your resume and you already are seen as talking on things that are not relevant. Going on to what I was saying, for earlier stage individuals, and I'll share after this session, I'll share a one-page CV that speaks to this. For one-page resume people that are at the lower end of their career journey so far, what I would advise is you have 2, 3, or maybe at maximum 4 bullet points each that shows your experience, 4 bullet points per job. And I would advise you just have maximum of 3 roles that you on your resume if you are starting. Even as I am right now, I have 4 roles, and that's because I had to show that I'm actually even doing some, I've actually done some work within the United Kingdom. If not, I wouldn't have 4 roles. I probably would have streamlined it down to 3 roles. Now, going back to what I'm talking about, each bullet point, in order to pass the ATS, you have to be able to speak to what they are looking for. Going through the bullet points on the job description, you're able to see, for example, they're asking for someone that has used a particular software before, say Tableau, or maybe a project management software. I'm not sure which one of them are out there, but you have to be able to within, if it appears in the job description, try as much as possible to ensure that it appears one way or the other within one of the bullet points within any of your roles to show that you have used that tool before. Or you could even put it as bullet points that these are the skill sets you have. Sorry, let me just go down and address that right now. These are the skill sets you have, and this is what you have done in the past. For me, finance is becoming more technical. And I'm pointing out to things that I have gotten and shows that I have experience using these tools. I'm able to code in Python, and that stands out because if anyone here is applying for finance roles, you probably know they'd ask for Python, R, MATLAB, or any of those programs. You have to have at least one. What I would advise is go for Python if you haven't gone for it before, because it's the most versatile of those skills out there. And with Python, you're able to build on, say, on other software such as R, such as MATLAB. But once you have Python, you're able to build on that with other languages. So have at least try and get a course on Udemy. I actually learned how to code on Udemy using the course from Udemy to do this. Python, SQL, VB. I'm showing the tools and platforms I'm able to use. I'm able to use Tableau, Power BI. The rest are more finance software. So that might not necessarily be your focus, but be able to know what is relevant in your field. Be able to talk to them. There are some software that you might not be able to use if you haven't started a role, which is where it sometimes gets funny. They might ask you if you have experience using a particular software. However, those softwares are proprietary, meaning that if you've not done that job before, you're unable to use that software, which poses a problem for people, because if you don't have the job, how are you going to be able to prove experience that you've used that tool before? What I would advise is start studying stuff on YouTube. YouTube is actually a very good pointer to how some certain software work. Some people will show you how it works. You can even go to the manufacturer who would basically do as if you are trying to buy the software, and they'll give you a demo, or they have ready demos. So you already have an understanding of, even if it's basic understanding, you have an understanding of how the software functions, so that if you are ever in the midst of, if your resume passes through, which is the first step, if you're ever actually having to talk to these people, you're actually able to say that, yes, you know that you have these skills, and you're able to go with that. And for people that are going into the industry, I would advise that you also show some of the softwares or certifications rather that you've gotten. For me, I have a CFA level 1, some other finance certifications that I've listed. This isn't relevant for most people, so I wouldn't speak about that. Going back to bullet points, when you are typing your bullet points of what you have achieved in each role, the best way to do it is to talk about it from a third person perspective. Never use I. I is very counterproductive. Do not use I, do not personalize it. Talk about it as if you're talking about a third person. And also always use action words. As much as possible, ensure that you have an action word. Sometimes it might not be possible to use action words, but try as much as possible to use action words. Apart from the first role, which this is actually my resume, so it's not a random one. But apart from the first role, which shows which is speaking to the role itself, you'll see that most of my other roles have action words: assessed, appraised, developed, facilitated, steered, coordinated. You have to be able to use those action words as much as possible to describe what you did in each role. And try and switch it up. Do not use the same language all the time. If you see this, for example, you see assessed. Assessed and appraised, they mean the same thing. But I had to be able to use different language at each point in time. And yeah, basically it's very important. Another thing is the use of filler words. What I have here, which is why I haven't used filler words, is this resume is actually more focused on the academic right now. But when you are going in for a role right now, remove filler words. What are filler words? Words that do not add any essence to your resume. If this was going to go to a job application, I'll remove D. D is a filler word. And you can still understand what is being said. Appraised and recommended adjustments and improvements to organizations' operational processes to optimize efficiency and reduce costs, which is very fine. However, Other filler words here exist. You have and is a very big filler word. But note that I'm saying that this isn't going to, this isn't for a job application. This was actually for a PhD submission I did. When you are also doing this, try as much as possible to remove filler words. And is actually a big one. Going back into editing this, if I want to remove filler words, appraised, comma, recommended, adjustments. I could even remove recommended because appraised almost would carry that sentence to the end. Ensure as much as possible that, and if those words that that are not so important are removed, sometimes you're unable to describe a sentence without using a filler word, but try and as much as possible to reduce it. There's something that we used to use in Warwick Business School that I do not have access to once again, but it's a platform where you submit your resume and it then highlights all the things that are wrong with the resume. If I were to submit this right now, I'll score maybe around 60, and I'm being frank with you guys, and that's because I had to add some more roles that speak towards my my current focus, and I use quite a number of filler words. Let me even count Knight Frank, for example. You see, there's a filler. Let me highlight them. This is a filler word. Another filler word. Another filler word. This is just one single row. Another filler word. I'm highlighting this so that you get the point that already in my own resume, and actually use this as an example so that you see what I'm talking about. In my own resume, I'm looking at just 3 functions or achievements I've done in my role as Knight Frank, and I already have 4 filler words that I'm highlighting. Try as much as possible, because I know not every school might provide access to automated resume things, appraisals and all of that. But try as much as possible to jot this down and remove those filler words. You do not need to put filler words there. Try your possible best. You might have to write a particular role 4 or 5 times just to be able to get it to make sense without filler words. But you have to do your utmost best to remove them. In other roles, there's some, particularly for the more experienced individuals, what your focus is on. Please try and highlight what you've been able to do there as much as possible. For me, one of my biggest roles, and one sector that I hope to get back into after I'm done with my PhD or even taking out part-time contracts on, is investment management. And if you notice my resume, the 2 roles that actually speak to investment management have the highest number of bullet points. And this speaks to what I'm trying to do. Ensure that you are able to speak to what I'm trying to do. Sorry, you want to say something? Moya, I heard your voice. Okay, let me go back. Is there any chats? Hi, Toba, sorry, just give me a second.
I think it was just a feedback from, what's it called, from yourself. I was muted, so you can just go ahead.
Okay. Toba, I'm seeing your question right now. I'm not sure what you're studying, but this particular platform that Warwick gave us was for the WBS. I think each school within Warwick University has some things that they use. And I'm actually not sure if it was open to the whole of the Warwick Business School or if it was just for the MBA program. but I'll send the name of that platform. I'll look at it later. I'll look for that name later on. You just basically pass your resume. Okay, VMOC, yes, VMOC. And I think it was just for WBS. So it's something where it's not, that's why I made mention of the fact that it might not be open to everyone. However, VMOC, you're able to pay for it outside of WBS. You can pay for it as an individual. How much it costs, I do not know, because I actually essentially made all the changes I wanted to make while I was a student. And even then, you are limited to just 5 trials as a student. So what you try and as much as possible to do, you do as much as possible is ensure before if you decide to buy this platform or pay for this platform by yourself, you try as much as possible to follow these guidelines. I'll also get the WBS CV guidelines and send it across to Moyo so that he sends it to you guys later on. There's a guideline that you follow and it shows what to use and what not to use before, so that what you are doing essentially is you've corrected most of the visible mistakes that you can see before you pass it into the platform. Because if you are limited to 5 trials, your first trial is not the one that you don't want to be making mistakes that you can correct by yourself. You try and correct those mistakes before passing it through any CV analysis that you want to do. And it's much better than, say, going to a personal CV consultant that you see on Twitter, on Instagram, and whatnot, because they actually use the same platforms. Some of them use the same platforms, and for the individuals that don't use the same platforms, they basically are winging it, and it might not be. One thing you have to understand with career coaches, with people that say they do all of these things, is they are basically attending to hundreds of clients. They cannot tailor everything to what you want. You have to be cognizant of that. So you, as much as possible, have to think of your own situation before going to them. And if they are charging you, say, £50 to use for them to edit their resume, and they're using this platform, why not as well pay £20 or £30 and have access to those platforms? That's what I'll say to you, Toba. Okay, so going back to my focus is investment management, and the bulk of my experiences speak to what I've been able to do within that sector. For example, led investment risk analysis, conducted ex ante and ex post portfolio analytics. These are things you have to speak, always consciously ensure that anything you are, for me, because this is one sector I'm going into, my resume doesn't necessarily always have to change. It does change because even within the same sector, there are some nuances. But one thing you have to do is, as an individual, if you have identified 3 major areas you want to go into, have 3 different CVs. You maybe tweak them as time goes on, but have 3 different CVs. You want to go into NHS as a project manager, for example. You want to go into clinical medicine because that's also along your line. Have the second resume speak to that. Or you want to go into consulting, speak to consultants the language that they have heard by projecting your CV in that manner. So you have to ensure that for each different kind of sector or job type that you are going into, you are speaking to that. And what I'm speaking to, sorry, give me a second, I think my alarm. What I'm speaking to here is the things that are most essential within that sector. And for me, that's finance. But ensure that you have all your bullet points talking to these things, and ensure that things that are relevant to the role, such as building of models, if that's what it is, using of software. Remember I mentioned that about software you've used on the job. I'm mentioning softwares I've used. I'm mentioning models I've built. And these are things that I've mentioned transactions that I've done in the past, things that are relevant. Ensure that there's always relevancy in your resume. Now, one final point that I want to mention that is not resume focused. It's not on your resume, but something you need to be aware of is for public sector roles, there's a big drive by the public sector to anonymize and give as much opportunity to people who might not necessarily, who are immigrants or who might not necessarily fit a certain mold. And so when you're applying to public sector roles, you might see them, some roles I've applied to in public sector, for example, will tell you to remove the name of the university you've gone to, and all of those things that might help identify you. They just want to focus on what you have achieved, not on things that might identify you as an immigrant, or things that might identify you as classes, such as the school you've gone to. That is fine for public sector roles. But for private sector, particularly finance roles, one thing I'd say is you have to be very aware that these sectors are highly guarded, and it's almost like an old boys club, rather. Meaning that for you to get in, you must know someone. I'm going to emphasize this as much as possible, that the biggest thing you can have if you want to go into finance or consulting or other corporate roles that are not tech or medical or medicine or NHS roles, is you need to have a sponsor, you need to have an advocate. And I would say as much as possible, go on LinkedIn, look for people that are within that company that you're looking for at applying to. Start as soon as possible. I know you're on your programs right now, whatever you're studying. Start as much as possible right now. Look for target companies, look for the roles, and add them. Basically, there are two approaches. You could, before you apply for a certain role, you could tell them what you're doing. If they accept you, you could tell them what you're doing and say you want a coffee chat. You want to hear from them how their experiences have been. A coffee chat, what you're trying to do with a coffee chat is you're allowing these people talk. One thing you have to know is you have to be a very good listener. Allow these people, have a coffee chat. It might be virtual, it might be in person, but try as much as possible to network with these people, saying that you're looking, you like what they've done in their role. You want them to basically talk to you about their career journey if they have time. And when you go for those coffee chats, give them the floor as much as possible. Let them talk as much as possible. But you must be able to signify that you've heard back. So if, for example, they said something that is interesting, repeat it back to them in a different way so that they know that you're actively listening to them, and look for that opportunity where you slip in a word about what you want to do. On the other hand, if you're going to invest, if you're going in for a job application, look for them once again, send them your resume. I use LinkedIn Premium sometimes. I don't use it all the time because of the cost. But when I actually want to apply for a particular role, I pay for LinkedIn Premium, and I ensure I send a premium message to these individuals stating what my focus is, sending them my resume, and you'll be shocked at how many people are going to give you the chance to speak to them. For these jobs, you have to have an advocate, because if you do not have an advocate, it becomes essentially harder. And I'll give you an example, something that happened to me just last month. Because even though I'm doing a PhD, I'm self-funded, so I'm looking for roles whereby I'm able to do part-time roles, and I'm now able to pay part of my school fee, because yes, it's a financial burden. But bear with me, let me just give you this 5-minute example. I applied for a role that a former colleague of mine recommended me for. He told his manager that I was doing my PhD at this point in time, and his manager said that sure, we could have a talk. And we had a talk, and at the end of the second interview, this individual, not his own direct manager, but the hiring manager for this particular role, started asking questions about whether or not I will be able to do this, do my PhD, and also do the role quite well. And I mentioned that it was a part-time PhD. I did everything I could to counter every argument. And at the end of the day, this individual couldn't say anything around that. And he essentially said, okay, that they were going to invite me for the next stage interview. My friend was able to tell me about all the things that were going on in the background. There are some politics that are still going on in the background because he was arguing that he wanted someone that could code very well and has less technical skills, as opposed to someone that has all the technical skills, which is it's basically a pensions job. So I've done that before, as opposed to someone that has all the technical skills and doesn't code that well. One thing I need to do, the first stage of this interview process was a coding interview, it was a coding test, and I passed that test. But this individual was looking for excuses for me not being invited to the third stage. And he basically threw it open, trying to shift the goalpost. Because I passed your coding test, but they're trying to shift the goalpost. And I probably would have gotten a rejection at this point in time. But because I had a sponsor, a former colleague, that has been fighting for me, it's actually something where it's currently in discussion. I'm not sure what the outcome is, but I'm just using this as an example of why it's important that you have somebody to speak up for you when you're not in the room. And you have to be able to build those relationships as much as possible. You might have a very good resume, but when you're going into sectors that are very highly guarded, such as finance, you have to have an advocate for you in the organization. So I'm not sure if this is, Moyo, I might to ask for any questions at this stage, or would that come later on?
I think question and answer session will be after Olubokola speaks. So if you are done now, then we can just transit to the other distant, right?
Okay, no
Okay,
problem.
so thank you for that, and also to just buttress the last point Okwen made. The job market is divided into visible and invisible job market. The invisible job market is quite larger than the visible one. And when you talk about advocates, it's very well true. I remember a partner in a finance place that spoke to me and was like, come, you need to be able to network. And this advice is tailored towards people who are looking for roles in the corporate sector. So you need to be able to network so that somebody will recommend you for a role, right? A lot of times you can apply for a role on their site, but once you get somebody from the internal to do an internal recommendation for the role, you might be invited to the interview over the person that just, that just applied, regardless of qualification. So it's a place that you need to look at how to network. I mean, LinkedIn is a good way. Going for industry events is also another good way. So without taking much of your time, I would just want to invite Bukola to speak to us specifically within NHS. Olubukola, you can please unmute and start. So if you have any questions, please pop in the chat, and let's be interactive. What's been your experience with job search now? If there's any particular thing that any of the speakers can address, then we will be able to probably speak to it as well. So okay, can I unmute? Yeah, yes. Sorry about that. I think everybody should be able to unmute. I think you're on. Yeah. Set.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bukola Shadari. Please, can you help me start my video? So I can't start my video myself.
Oh, okay. Just give me a moment. I'm not sure I can do that for
As I
you.
said, the host hasn't.
Oh, okay. I need to ask you. Okay. Are you able to start it now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much to Dr. Moyo for this opportunity to share tips for crafting for writing your cover letter, which is usually called the supporting document in the NHS. I will be standing on existing protocol. Thank you for this opportunity. I do not take it lightly. So I started a bit of a background about myself. I have some slides prepared. If I could just quickly share those, just bear with me for a second. Mm, Okay. Mm. So can we all see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so let's a bit of history about myself. So I worked in Nigeria as a physiotherapist for 10 years. I came to the UK to pursue my master's in healthcare operational management, and I got a job as a band 5 assistant service manager in the NHS. I worked there for a year, and then I went into the I got a job, another role as a band 7 operations manager in the NHS at the University Hospitals of Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. When I am here to give the NHS experience, and when I talk about the NHS, I want to be clear that it's not in clinical roles, it's in non-clinical roles. I understand that there are a lot of people here who do not have any clinical background, and you're not even interested in clinical roles. But there are lots of non-clinical roles in the NHS, and especially if your focus is getting sponsorship, there are lots of non-clinical roles in the NHS which provide sponsorship, from service management to operations management, project management, quality improvement, especially so many roles that project management, like Dr. Oyoko is a business analyst within the NHS, and these roles provide sponsorship. I always say that the NHS is like a sure place for getting sponsorship. So how did I transition from a band 5 to a band 7? To be honest, it was the NHS experience. Having that 1 year NHS experience really helped me and worked to my favor. Now, to land my first role, I put in an average of at least 100 100 applications. Put in so many applications. I had about 6 interviews. I got 1 role. To land my second job, I put in probably like 5 applications. I got like 3 or 4 interviews, and I got the one job. The difference between both of them is that I had gained the NHS experience. And from my time spent in the NHS, so I've been on both sides of the divide. I've been a job seeker and I have been a recruiter. I've done application shortlisting. I've been on interview panels. And one of the things that breaks my heart is when I see Nigerians applying and they are not doing their due diligence, and I have to like shortlist you out. It's one of the most painful things for me that this is my person and there's nothing I can do, because you have just not done what is needed to get you that role. You have not shown that you are a suitable candidate for that role. And when you are doing an application process in the NHS, unlike corporate, as Where has said, in the NHS, you don't need your CV as such. You don't need a CV as such. If you have your CV, yes, there are components of your CV that you can pick and put, but NHS, you are essentially filling a form, and the form is usually on, so to get an NHS job, you go to NHS jobs website. Usually that will take you to a website called Track, when you get the job that you want. On Track, you're essentially just filling a form. The form has different parts to it. You have personal details, which, to be honest, doesn't change. You have your previous experience. That is one way where you can show that what you have done before is relevant to what is being asked. And then you have your supporting information. Your supporting information is about your most important thing in your cover letter. I think I'm jumping the gun. I haven't used my slides a bit, so I'm just going to start my slide. So I've given a brief introduction on my experience as a job seeker, my experience as a recruiter working in the NHS, from shortlisting application, and I sat on quite a number of interview panels, and I've gotten a feel of what they are looking for. And as one of my friends would say, the NHS is empty. They need so many people, even in non-clinical roles. There are so many roles that people can apply for, but people do not know about. And then what are recruiters looking for? Experience. A lot of the time, when we're recruiting, we're looking for someone who has relevant experience for the role we are recruiting, or who can show that they can do what we're asking to do, whether they've done it before. It could be in another industry, it could be in another sector. You have transferable skills that you can show that you have transferable skills that you can use in that role. Because by and large, in the NHS, especially for non-clinical roles, there will be some form of training, experience. I always say that in my own from what I've learned in the short time I've been in the NHS, experience always trumps certification. It always trumps. So you're coming in, you think, oh, I have a master's in this, I have this training in that. No, they want to see what have you done before. And I'll give you a very short example. In my previous role as a band 5, I was in a team of 10. We have about 2 band 8s, 4 band 7s, and 4 band 5s. It would interest you to know that only one of the band 8 was a university degree holder. The other band 8, the 4 band 7s, and the other 3 band 5s, none of them went to the university. They had all just worked in the hospital for so long and moved up the ladder. I was probably the only other person who was coming in with my master's in healthcare operational management, and they knew more than me because they had been in the hospital. They knew all the hospital systems that I was just learning. They knew everything. They knew how to navigate. They knew how to go. The one that was for theater, the one that was for outpatient management. I was just learning all that. So experience the more. If you have transferable skills, how did I get the job? I was able to show that I had transferable skills. I had done something similar in my physiotherapy profession to land the job as a service manager, because that was what I wanted to do at that time. So like I said, the NHS doesn't really require you to have a CV as such. The first thing you need to do, if you're interested in the NHS, register on NHS jobs website as a candidate. You filter out for the role you want. There are several roles. I could give you examples of non-clinical roles. It's always good to go have a feel for it, look at what your experience is, and look at what they're asking for. So when you see a NHS advert, the first thing you want to look for is the job specification, job description, and person specification. Those 2 documents are very, very important. And please let me say here, please do not use the same supporting document for different roles. No, it doesn't work that way. Yes, you might use the templates, but for each role, for every role, you need to tweak. You need to make tweaks. You always need to tweak. You always need to use what is in the job description of the particular role you're applying for to craft your supporting document. So in the NHS, what you call cover letter is called supporting document in the NHS. You always need to tweak your cover letter for each role that you are going into. So like I said, register on NHS jobs. They will bring out the jobs in the area. And if you're in a particular area in the UK and you don't want to move, after my master's, I was ready to move anyway. If you're in a particular area, you filter out for the area that you are. Another way you can get jobs is to go to the NHS website of the trust of where you are, or like in 10 miles radius of where you are. For example, if you are in Coventry, there's the University Hospitals Coventry and Warwickshire, something like that. There's George Eliot Hospital in Nuneaton, which is not so far. So you look at the hospitals around there and go into their website, go to the career of vacancy and look for the jobs available there. That's another way of getting jobs. So you will bring out jobs in your location, and when you start the application process, it takes you to Track. Track is where most trusts use. It's like the application system that most trusts use. The good thing about Track is that it's Hello.
I missed two lines of what you said before
Okay.
you got here. So I don't know if you could just.
I'm not sure which part you missed though.
You said when we want to apply, we go to Track.
No. You go to NHS jobs.
Okay.
You go to NHS jobs, register as a candidate.
Okay.
Register as a candidate, and then you search. You search using the name of the job role and your location. I said for me, when I finished my master's, I was not location biased. I was ready to be flung anyway. I think London was the only place I wasn't very interested in because the cost of living in London is quite high. I don't want to go and pay an arm and a leg just to get decent accommodation. So I was ready to go anywhere in the UK just to get a role the kind of role that I wanted. Or if your location is a problem for maybe you've got your husband working, your children in school, whatever, filter for location. You can put plus 10 mile radius, or go into the trust website of the NHS trust around you to look for roles. That's another way to get roles. So when you're filling the form, so it's from the application form that takes you to Track. Track is where you're going to fill the application, but you're not going to. Well, Track also has you can go to Track yourself, to be honest, and check the roles that they have. Track also has a list of roles, but usually I go from NHS jobs, and NHS jobs takes me to Track. Not all trusts uses Track. Like my present trust, University Hospitals, we don't use Track. It just takes you to their own job application portal, which is why I go through NHS jobs, so that for trusts that don't use Track, I can go on. It takes me to their own portal, and I'm able to do my application on their own portal. University of Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust does not use Track. Please be aware that Birmingham has like 6 different trusts. There's University of Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. There's Sandwell and Dudley. There's Birmingham Women's and Children. There's Birmingham's Mental Health. They have about 6. I can't even remember all of them. So please be aware. Some of them use Track, some of them don't. So let's go. So the 2 things that you really, really need to focus on, because to be honest, your name doesn't change, your address probably not, your qualifications doesn't change. So those things are stored by Track. Those other things that doesn't change about you, are stored by Track. Where you really need. Everything is stored by Track, but when you are filling your form, what you really need to focus on is, number 1, your past experiences. Number 2, your supporting document. Your supporting document is like an essay. It's like a 1,500-word essay where ideally you are selling yourself. You want to tell the recruiter that you're the best person for this role. You want to, as much as possible, show that your skills, your experiences, the knowledge that you have gained it's relevant to the role that they have. And how you can do this is, number 1, go and study the job description. For every role that you're applying for, you go to the job description and person specification. There's something called essential requirements. For the essential requirements, you have to look for how you meet that essential requirements, and then there's desirable. If you meet the desirable requirements, please demonstrate it. And don't just write, I meet this requirement. No, you have to demonstrate how you meet this requirement. And I'll give you 1 or 2 examples. I'm very conscious of time. I don't want to take so much of our time. I'll give you 1 or 2 examples. In my past work as I worked as a physiotherapist in Nigeria. I worked in a big hospital. Physiotherapy is very clinical work. It's very specific. Is niched, kind of. It's clinical straight away. But when I started applying, and when I first started applying, I wasn't getting interview invites because I was speaking more on my physiotherapy experience, which is not relevant to healthcare management experience, which is what I wanted to go to. So I went back to the drawing board and I started thinking about the things that I was doing outside of the clinical work as a physiotherapist, which was like 30% of what I was doing. Physiotherapy was like 70%, in fact, maybe like 80% of what I was doing. Number one, I was the unofficial department, my physiotherapy department, I was the budget holder. So all the contributions that they used to make, I'm the one that will collect it, give account. If someone gives birth, it's me that will take money from the purse and give to the person. If someone is getting married, I'm the one that will go and buy a gift, wrap it, take it, do the account, report back to the HOD and the directors. If we used to have in-house parties, I'm the one that would release money to the welfare committee to that is a budget. I was kind of holding a budget for the department. But if I didn't sit down to think about it, that was just unofficial. It's not on my job description. But I was doing it, and honestly, I was doing it. I was like the finance person, unofficial. But in Lagos State job description for a physiotherapist, budget holding is not there. But I was doing this work. I had to go and say, I had to do deep thinking. What else did I do? And then I just started remembering things. Another thing I used to do that I didn't even realize is I'm the one that used to prepare rota. I'm the one that used to prepare rota for those that were going to the ward in my department. Do you understand? So if in our department, those that will go to the wards for every week. In fact, I used to do it for the month. I'll sit down, prepare the rota, and submit it to the director. The director will then look at it, usually just sign it off. They really didn't care. Now, I was seeing rota management as part of the things that they wanted me to do. I was seeing rota management. Do you understand? So, I don't remember that, but I used to do rota. I went to go and put it there that I used to do rota. So those are the things you need to sit down and think about. Even if it's voluntary work, even if you're volunteering for your church, for your mosque, it's also work that you have done. Do you understand? It's part of the work that you have done and that you are able to justify. You're able to justify that you have done this work. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you need to sit down. You need to think about the work that you have done. You need to beyond what is on the CV, the job description, the person specification is very, very, very important for you to do. Do you get what I'm saying? What else do I have? So when you are in your experience, look at what they are asking for. Write those things out as your experience, as part of the things you have. Look for how you can craft it as part of the things that you have done. Write it out, craft it out. Please hold on. Just go. All right, sorry about that. So just look for look for the things that you have done since you started your career in your church, at home. Some of you are event managers. Some of you have done things that you are not even aware, you have not put thought to. Some of you are excellent event managers, but because they've not paid you for it, you have not put thoughts to it. Do you understand? So those are the things that you need to sit down and think about it. So let's go to tips now. So I've given a broad overview, but I have some tips that I have put down here. So when I spoke of due diligence means going through the job description and tailoring your own supporting documents to suit that. Do you get? So I've spoke about NHS jobs, career vacancy pages of the NHS trust close to you. That's how to apply in the NHS. Now, crafting an excellent supporting document. So you have your job description, you have person specification, you have essential requirements. So in all of them, they have essential requirements, you have desirable requirements. You need to meet at least 80% of the essential requirements. But remember the example that I gave. As a physiotherapist, did I really meet 80%? No. But when I remember that, I used to do, they used to call me Department Akapu. For the Yorubas, you know what Akapu means, like treasurer. You know, I used to do rota, you know, and now what I do as a healthcare manager, rota management is a lot. I mean, I do it now on a lot more compound scale, but you know, that's what I used to do. So you need to tailor your application to match your skills, your knowledge and experience to the job requirements. So you need it to align. You know, one of the things I've seen as a recruiter is people just copying the job description, copy it in block and just go and paste it in the supporting document and say that I've been able to do this, I've been able to. How have you been able to do this? How? Show the how. You show, like they say, show workings. You need to show workings, you know. Read through the job description and person specification, align your past experiences, your skills, align it with the knowledge to show that you meet the essential requirement. Like I said, do not copy and paste. Please do not copy and paste. Research the position, research the division, research the trust. If possible, the contact number of the person that they've put there, you know, if you look at the NHS, there's a contact person, contact the person, send the person an email. Hello, I'm applying for this. I just want to get more perspective on this role. Please, do you have, or can I call you, or do you have type? Sometimes the number is there. You can call the person because usually it's the official number. You can call the person, craft your question, you know, can I get more insight into so and so? You know, those are the things that, because that person at the interview will be looking out for you. Number one, the person already has some form of a, you know, soft spot for you. Another very important thing when you are doing the NHS application is the trust values. Please go and look for the trust values and look for how to put it into your application. Like a lot of them is like compassionate, kind. How have you shown kindness? How have you shown you are compassionate? How have you shown you are a trustworthy person? Those are generic ones. They are, for every trust, they are different, but they are similarly different. That's what I like to call it. You know, you have to be able to show, oh, as a physiotherapist, I was very compassionate towards my patients. I ensured that I treated them to the highest form of respect. And if there are instances, you know, where, like I remember in some interviews, I gave instances where a colleague had shouted at a patient and I had tried to de-escalate the process, and I had apologized as the line manager of that colleague. I had apologized, you know, just giving examples that show that I'm a compassionate person, but even managing difficult situations. So there are different soft skills that you also need to project. So it's not even only about your certification. In the NHS, they are very big about soft skills because they don't shout on people. Everybody is just, you know, you try to manage. It's about managing people. You know, I'm a bit biased because I'm talking in my role as a manager, but this can be applicable to whatever profession you are looking. Soft skills is a big deal. Leadership skills, soft skills, beyond your certification, beyond your knowledge, beyond the fact that you have experience. Soft skills is also, you want to show that you have the adequate soft skill, you know, to do this job. So incorporate trust values. You have to be able to prove that you have what it takes to do the job. Like, I hadn't done much of, I'm referring back to my own experience. I hadn't done much of healthcare management. Yes, I had done a bit of management because I had been promoted to the position of chief physiotherapist, and there's a bit of management involved, but I hadn't done much of management. But you see, the little that I had done, I projected it. That was my main. So in the job description, look for what resonates most with you and project that. Try to show that, yes, you are able to do that. Then use the STAR approach. There's an approach called the STAR approach. S is for situation, T is for task, A is for action, R is for results. So and this is usually more for interviews than for cover letters. You know, so read up about the STAR approach. It's a very fantastic way to answer question. What was it? If they say, okay, tell us a time when you were able to do so, and so. I know that this is about cover letters, but I'm just delving a bit into interview. What was it? Tell us about, like, they can say, okay, tell us a time when you were able to de-escalate a difficult situation. Like what I said, example I gave earlier, a colleague shouting at a patient, you know, what was the situation? What did I do task? What was the action I did? What was the result? You know, that kind of, but it can come in any way, to be honest. You have to be able to sit down to think of your own and to adapt it. But the STAR method is, it's a very fantastic way of answering questions. Then please emphasize your qualifications and experience that is relevant to the position, especially your experience. Then when you are crafting your cover letter, please show that you are motivated and you love the job. Even if you don't love the job, you are looking for a job. Don't just show that, as in, try to put some motivation and zeal into, let them, from what you are writing, let it show that you are zealous about what you are doing. You know, emphasize your love for the profession. I always put that I love operations, even though I had not even, as before I got into, I had not even gotten a full scope of what it's about. I love the profession. I love that. I know that they are working behind the scenes to make sure that the hospital runs, the services run well, and this is impacting on patient management, improving patient experience, you know, put all of that. Then please be concise and focused. Don't put too much story. You don't need to put too much story. Just short, concise, focus, and let it flow. Let there be a flow to it. You might start from your education to your qualification, your education to where you have worked. Maybe you worked here, give some examples of them. You worked there, you know, just let there be a flow to it. Then when you're writing, quantify your successes. Be a bit boastful. Boast about the things you have done that have been successful. Oh, I was involved in a group, in a team that did this, you know, write about the things that, what was your role on that team? What was your own responsibility? You can use the STAR approach too for that. Maybe there was a situation in your company, and if you were the singular person that did the role, please talk about it, brag, talk about your work. There's no humility here. It's just that you should be truthful, but feel free to talk about what you have done that you can substantiate and, you know, give more details on. Anything that you have done that is spectacular, please talk about it. Anything you have done that is, you know, beyond average, above normal, talk about it, brag, sell yourself, put yourself out there. There's nothing to be humble about. No, I don't want to be. No, please everybody is selling themselves. A man-eat-man situation. Everybody wants to push themselves out to be the best. So please, you to push yourself out to be the best. Just linking your skills, all the skills that you have, linking your skills. Please, that job description and person specification, don't sleep on it. It's very, very important. Ensure that you know what they are required. Read it more than once. You can read it at night, sleep on it, wake up in the morning, read it again to understand what they want, you know, what they want from you, and to be able to show them, you know, to be able to show them what they want. So I think that I have completed all that I have here. I mean, I'm happy to provide guidance with application process. I'm happy to take people on how to apply, I'm happy to do mock interviews with people. I'll just, you know, give you an upfront that I'm sorry, I'm very blunt. I really don't know how to sugarcoat things. You know, I will tell you as it is, purely from a place of love and from a place of wanting more and more people to come into the NHS, to get sponsorship roles, to get sponsored roles, you know. I want to I'd love to build a community of fellow healthcare managers, service managers, project managers, you know, who are doing great things in the NHS, who are, I mean, very senior. I always tell Dr. Oyoko, very senior management should be our focus, not even band 7, band 8, band 9. We should be going to very senior management. So, and it's about building capacity within ourselves, you know, building capacity within ourselves to deliver, because it's not just about getting the role. I just don't believe in getting a role. I believe we should also deliver whatever role that we find ourselves. We should also be able to deliver in those roles. We should also be able to, you know, put forth the best, do excellent work, you know, in whatever role that we find ourselves. So I don't know if you have any questions. Just trying to go through my notes to be sure that I have covered everything that I set out to talk about. Like I said,
Yes.
experience
Okay.
always, if there's one thing I want you to take away from here, is that experience always trumps certifications. Your master's, yes, fantastic, it helps, but look into yourself, do a deep think of the things you have done. Sit down, put away your phone, write out everything that you have done, and use it to apply, use it to craft your CV. Thank you very much, Dr. Oyoko.
Thank you very much for that insightful session. Honestly, I could really relate to a lot of things that you're saying, especially from the transferable skills point of view. So for me, like I said, I did like an internship in business analysis, but I got a role as a change manager. And one important thing was just that I looked at my previous roles. Like I said, I was a regional manager at an health insurance firm. Yeah, all the things I did regarding health insurance really doesn't matter. But what I dug into was that I managed a hospital network expansion project, and I was able to tailor that as a project management experience. For change management, at some point in the different places that we worked, we had digital transformations, and I was part of the team as a stakeholder and also as managing the change. For example, when we changed our operation software, which would enable hospitals submit their claim online. So we had to meet with the hospitals, stakeholders. We had to train their staff, which is part of change management. And also, we had to also do like post live support and do like, okay, now that we've changed our, system, how has it impacted on our operations? How has it made it better? Which is more like benefit realization. So it's very good to look at things that you feel are probably intangible in what you've done before, to be able to tailor it to the roles that you're looking at. I mean, there are probably several things I've done, even looking back at when I was a student. I was a member of Alpha Club in OAU, and I was the chancellor of the Exchequer at some point. I was managing budgets. I was managing, different things. And then again, I think I was a member of disciplinary committee. And what that means is just that I was ensuring that I was keeping people in check. And also like, which it's what it can be about leadership, really. So a lot of things that you've done, even when I was the PRO of National Federation of Catholic Students then, and I was coordinating with like many schools in the province. So there are things that you've probably done in your personal life. Maybe you're even being admin of your school WhatsApp group, coordinating stuff like that. They are transferable skills. And like Akwa said, that you don't need to, you can just put the role and state what you did, right? You don't need to necessarily put where. They can ask and you tell them, right? But it just shows that you understand the fact that you are creating a story with your CV with those relevant details to tell us that you have done this to the eye level. For example, when I was regional manager as well, I was also given NPR reports every quarter. Once a year, we meet with the board. If there's anything I'm going to talk about engaging senior, that requires senior leadership engagement, I'll probably talk about, executive team engagement, board engagement, and stuff like that. So, but that was not part of my job description, like, but those are things that you just have to do when you are at work. So it's good to take a reflective look at your journey so far, and then be able to just like, okay, I'm applying for this role as this and that. What can I put to support this? So it's very insightful, Olubukola, and I'm very grateful. And before we move to the next session, I also want to quickly chip in this, and it's about, above everything, don't forget the God factor, right? It's good to know your direction and it's good to know your purpose, right? That you are working in purpose, and you pray to God for guidance. You might be looking in, like, for example, when I started job hunt, I was just bent on healthcare consulting, working for Deloitte. I got a couple of interviews with Deloitte, BCG, some boutique consulting as well. And, it's quite interesting that everyone was looking at me like, yeah, doctor, probably telling a clinical story. But another thing you need to also be aware of is that, okay, don't let me stay on faith. I'll talk on that. But as time went by, yeah, and this is I'm not trying to be, because I understand that there are people of different faiths on the call, and I had a revelation that it was healthcare related in technology, which is the heart I've won before, right? And what would also enhance my experience in healthcare was to go for an internship, which I just did. And the thing is, a friend of mine have been telling me to do this thing for more than 2 years. I didn't do it because I felt I know all these things. At some point I was a consultant and interim CEO for a health insurance startup in Nigeria, where I actually delivered health insurance operations software integrated with an APR system. So I know all these things. But the thing is, I've known all those things, but I was not speaking the language. At some point, it was, in prayers, in reflecting and meditating, that I was able to understand, okay, go for this. And I also received a charge as well. Like, you need some more further education about, something, and you are able to, galvanize all your experience to where you are going to, right? In the last session, that's the last webinar, the facilitator also told us that you are also not restricted to the UK as it is. Because, when you receive God's divine guidance, you will understand maybe this is not the place for you. But you coming here has its purpose, right? And of course, you coming here having an education here gives you a bit of, global exposure. So, for example, there was someone who Reverend Teju was just like prayed for and just received a revelation that then just start tailoring your applications towards America. And, the feedback she gave was like, that's quite interesting, because her family has actually been telling her to change to America at some point. Yeah. And, and that was like this thing for her. And I think she was able to just, even after a few tries, just, get roles in America and then move to America. And, somebody also spoke like, it might even be back in Nigeria. If you have to go to Nigeria or go to any African country, but you need to seek answers from God to be able to understand what is, there for you, right? So it's good to, know what your purpose is and be able to work in that purpose. Some of us are also trying to learn a lot about the purpose journey, and it's not, if you don't know, it's not what's it called, there's always time to find out, so that you work in purpose. Because at some point, when you get what you're looking for as a job, you wonder like, yeah, now that I got it. So, but for example, I remember when I first got my job as business change manager, I knew how I worked out to get it, and it was quite easy when I started working. So I was like, but the thing is, like, my purpose has always been in using technology to improve health globally and also Africa. So it was just like, how is it usually said in Nigeria? Soft work, yeah. It was just like soft work, really. So I'm just emphasizing you also by probably take some reflective period to understand purpose. Our senior pastor actually has some a Udemy course about finding purpose. I will share the link in the chat, which you might want to look at, and also be able to, from purpose understanding all these things, and then you can enrich yourself, because it's good to go like deep into spirituality, really. I remember the former chairman of First Bank, Ibukun Awashika, she mentioned at some point that, you take care of, let me speak as Gen Z, you take care of business in the spiritual, right? Before you now, and then you just act on direction in the physical. So it's good. I'm just using that to buttress that whatever you do, just ensure you bring God to the picture, because, it's God first, everything will follow in line. Now, having said that, we'll move to the next section. I'm very conversant of time, but if at any point in time you feel maybe you need to go, you can probably just, drop off the call. But I'll also put what's it called? A link in, no, an email, that if you want to reach out to any of the panelists who have probably offered, like Buki as Bukola has offered to support people with NHS tailored application, and Okwe has offered to also help people with CVs. I will mention my own offering later. So you'll be able to connect with them. So now we will talk about the various tools that will be able to support, help you with your, job searching for roles. And, a lot of people will talk about ChatGPT. Okwe has mentioned VMOC earlier. There are some other things that are quite important, because the application tracking system will look at the scoring to just shortlist you. It doesn't care about anything you do before. And, like using how relevant are the experiences you put there? Are there action words in your CV? Are there filler words? So if it's not, like ATS compatible, it's possible that you might, you are not seen. So, and you can't blame the hiring manager, because the system just presented to him or her the most relevant CVs that they feel are scored enough to get it. So it's also quite important to look at how your CV is faring in with ATS. And I'll give you an example. So I realized that I wasn't getting a lot of roles, and I used I think one of this I think my top CV, I'll confirm that, and it shows that, oh, Moyo has relevant experience with senior management experience in financial services. So I was wondering, how did I get here to financial services, right? And was able to now realize that health insurance is classified as in financial services. Despite the fact that I was, I started my career there in medical operations, moved to client services, and then operational lead and all whatnot. So it's also good for you to know what your CV, what story your CV is is telling the ATS system. What's your previous job experience title what is the equivalent here in the UK? For example, I was a care coordinator for a health insurance firm. It's a supervisory role. I think it was deputy manager or assistant or something like that. But care coordinator here means a different thing. And it's not so senior as like that. So you also need to be able to understand all these things. And then these tools will probably help you to be able to know what your CV is really talking about. And to speak on that session, I will invite Okpe back to just take us through one or two things. All right, and if you have any questions, you just still do well to pop them in the chat, and then we'll be able to address them. I'll be monitoring the chat. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. There are three things I'm going to be sharing right now. Just give me a second. I'm not sure what you can see at this point in time. Moyo, could you confirm what's showing on the screen, please?
I can see you first, and okay, I think is this ChatGPT? Yeah.
Okay, let me change my screen. Give me a second.
Okay, yeah, your screen is really good. Yeah, it was showing
Okay.
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to show.
Oh, okay.
So we've gone around about the perfect CV, what it should contain and what not. However, there are two things I would like to share right now. I know we've touched on one, but I'll touch on the other one right now. In building your resume, it's very important that your font size, basically ensuring that it's as well articulated as possible, and ensuring that the fonting formatting is actually quite important. And for me, during the course of applying for things and also trying to improve myself, I came across HackerRank. HackerRank is actually a tool for people who are trying to practice on their coding, practice on coding languages, programming languages. And I was doing this when I realized that this guys had a free website building platform. Just give me a second to log in. Now, what I would say around this is, for me, it was quite easy to build, and I'm just going to go with the classic look. This thing formats your resume, and yes, and it just, what is this thing? Okay, yes, this thing formats my resume, and it already has brought up some information by default. Name, email, phone number isn't right, but basically it asks you to put in information you want to do. For example, if I want to be a project manager, it helps format this in ways that I'm not sure why it should be showing on this other side, but I'm not sure why it's not showing. Basically, once you impute the information, it helps you format it. So yes, it helps you format it. It shows you skill sets, which is basically what I use for the resume I showed you guys. And this is all I've done. Going back to finance, this might not be important in NHS, but you also have to be able to show this, apart from the skill set, you have to be able to show what platforms you've done. And particularly if you are going for a quantitative finance role, which is trending towards what I want to do, you also have to be able to show your portfolio. Portfolio shows basically what you've done, what code you've built, and things like that. It's important that you also are able to showcase this by setting up a GitHub account. A GitHub account basically shows a list of all the projects you've done, either on Python or whatever coding language you are doing. And so, yes, once you're able to set up a GitHub account also. I haven't transferred my coding here because it's not important to me at this point in time, but something I know that I need to do very soon. So once you log into GitHub, you're able to go through this and you're able to set up what you have done. It basically gives them an idea of what you have, because so many people say they're able to use a particular software, such as Python, but when they're asking them questions, they are unable to prove it. So here, instead of them asking you questions during the interview stage, you already show them a portfolio of what you've built, and they're already able to see whether you suit what they are looking for or not, and it saves time. It also, so I'll advise people to ensure they have a GitHub account. But back to this, once you're able to fill in all the things you've used, let me just put Warwick. I just want to show an example. Okay, it's just bear with me. I'm just going to still, sorry, just the basics on this. Hello? Someone is saying that I don't have audio. Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm just trying to show an example of what I'm doing, of how to use this platform for Finn, who said there wasn't any audio. I'm just filling this so that you can see how this works.
Maybe if you can just, like, maybe some people are actually just listening or probably driving, they can't focus on the
Okay.
screen. Maybe you can
So,
just talk through it.
Yeah, so already you can see as I'm typing all of this out, these things are coming out. It's already showing, it's already building the resume here. And this is just as an example, just to show once you start filling, it already builds the resume out, and then you are going to be able to edit it to how you want it to look. But already you can see it's on the right-hand side. While you're typing in what you need to type in on the left-hand side, it's showing on the right-hand side. Python, for example, Python. Once I type in Python, you see that programming languages comes out with Python. So what I would advise is, this is a very good resume builder. You can change fonts, you can edit it once you're done. But I'll advise that this is used, and the website, I'll pop that into the chat right now so that we all are able to see that. Or I'll pop it down later on. So once you just do that, you just download, and then you're ready to download. I would advise downloading as a PDF. The others are not necessary. And once you do that, once you have your resume, it's now time to analyze your resume. We talked about VMOC earlier on. Now coming into this, it basically shows, it basically shows people that have used it. And if you want to log in or if you want to buy a profile, yes, create your VMOC profile. Once you're able to do all of that, you'll then be able to use it. Once again, I do not know the pricing of this, but I advise that investing £50 or something around that region, where you can tweak it to your and ensure that you get at least an 80% score once you do that. I advise it that it's more money well spent rather than taking it to someone off Instagram or Twitter to help you do your resume. Do your resume first of all, then run it through here and ensure that you have the corrections that you follow the corrections that it brings out for you. I'm unable to log in because I don't think I have a profile and I haven't paid for one yet, but I think it's around £50. So first of all, foremost, build your resume, have run it through VMOC or any of the other guys that analyze, any of the other websites that analyze your resumes. Those are the two major things I'm going to share. Now I'm going to move on to ChatGPT. Please give me a second. In ChatGPT, a number of things, a number of people make this mistake whereby they just put in garbage in and garbage out. One thing that is very common right now is while we're advancing in technologies and how to beat the system is also ensuring that they combat people that are trying to use other means to beat the system. And what do I mean? If you just put in a job description, for example, if I take in a particular job and I run it through chat that should build me a resume, ChatGPT will build in a resume. But how relevant is it? And are other people using the same words? You have to be able to talk to ChatGPT and ensure you are able to modify what you're asking it first and foremost. And then when you are taking in the feedback, you are also able to modify the feedback that you get from it. And I'll use an example. I'm looking for, please just give me a second. I'm trying to open a document on my end. You might not see me doing that, but I'm trying to do this. So what I've done on my own end is to copy a role that I applied for in the past. And what I'm telling chat is, in chat, can you design the resume of this? If I ask ChatGPT to do this for me, chat is going to give me an address. Chat is going to give me feedback. Now, one thing, I've not given chat anything about myself. What it has done, which is something Bukola spoke about, is it has just taken that whole job description and passed it through here, garbage in and garbage out. You do not want that. Once again, you do not want that. One of the best ways to do is you take the job description, you take your existing resume, and you ask chat to build you a new resume based off of this. Now, let me do this. Let me ask chat again. Give me a second. I'm trying to open. copied my resume from where it is. And I'm asking chat, can it modify? I've taken my resume and I've asked chat to do this. And what it's going to do right now is it's going to take this and start. You can see that it has changed the number of bullet points. It has removed some of the things that it feels is not necessary. It has streamlined my resume. And this, for example, some roles, I think the Power Pension role had 8 bullet points or more. And this also had a significant number of bullet points. What ChatGPT has done is it has taken the body of my resume and it has streamlined it to this, to fit this particular role. And that's what we should aim at. Once it even does this, it's not like I'm still going to take this resume it has built for me and just run it through like that. What my aim is going to be is to read carefully and see how exactly it fits what it has said. For example, most of what chat is saying for this particular role, some of them are not necessary. It's showing some things that I've done in other functions that are not necessary. This is quite necessary in that particular aspect. This is necessary, but this conducting regular portfolio performance doesn't fit into the asset and liability management role I have put there. So one thing you have to consistently do is you have to consistently look at the output that ChatGPT gives you, and you have to be able to run with it and optimize as much as possible. Because if you do one size fits all, it will never ever work out that way. And you also have to understand that ChatGPT is just a machine. At the end of the day, we have to guide the machine into producing what we want. So these are the basic tools that I use in preparing my resume. Once again, I would also let me stop sharing and share something else. Once again, once we build the resume, we need to, as much as possible, be able to point to our experience. It is very important that you're able to show relevance. If the role is asking whether you can use Python, even if you cannot use Python and you put Python there, you have to be able to start reading up on Python as soon as possible, or reading up on whatever skill set that is needed. The worst thing you can do is pass. If you do some of these things, you might get called for the next role, for the interview. But one of the most painful things is once you pass and you're not able to speak, sometimes organizations blacklist people. What do I mean by this? You might apply to a particular organization for a particular role, and if you are unable to prove relevance in that role, in that interview, if you are speaking totally off point, you are not going to get an interview again in that organization until something changes. And the case in point is Deloitte. Deloitte, if you apply to Deloitte today with a particular resume for a particular role, once you get rejected for that role, you cannot apply with that resume and that role again. You have to use a new email. Initially, all you just needed to do was use a new email. Right now, they also require you to use a new phone number, meaning that if for example, for healthcare consultant, you apply for a healthcare consultant role with Deloitte, for example, and your number is 071. If you are not successful for whatever reason, you cannot apply to that role again with your email. You now have to to go with another email, another phone number. Maybe you now get another phone number, 072. So what you have to do as much as possible is, there are two things you have to ensure. Have the right resume to get in, and also ensure that you, apart from understanding, you're able to speak into the roles that are, to the role that is required. It's very important so that you do not get blacklisted from applying for a particular company. Some companies don't even tell you that you've been blacklisted. It's until someone internal tells you that you've been blacklisted that you know you've been blacklisted. And I've had that happen to me because TD Bank, for example, I applied for a role for TD Bank is a Canadian bank. I applied for a role with TD Bank from the United States, from the United Kingdom. Basically, there was something that if you have a visitor's visa, you'll be able to get into, and you get a job offer, you'll be able to use that to immigrate. At one point in time last year, I was thinking of doing that. So I applied for TD Bank, and I had the first stage interview because my resume was good enough. But after they asked me if I had the right to work, and I mentioned that I had a visitor's visa and I was trying to go in using the scheme that they mentioned, and they told me, oh well, at this point in time, I'm unable to work with that scheme, even though it's a government regulated scheme. Each other role I applied for, I never got any feedback, even though I had gotten to the second stage interview before they asked me that question. And why was that? Because someone internal told me that they had blacklisted me, that I didn't have the right to work. So these are some things that you need to understand. For whatever reason, ensure that not only is your resume good, ensure that even if you are lying, you're able to back up that lie. It might be your friend that has done that role before. Have a meeting with your friend, understand the ins and outs as much as possible so that you're able to speak to it. Because once you go to an interview and you're very woeful, God will not allow that be our portion. But if you are very woeful, particularly in a corporate world environment, you probably will not get a call back at all from that organization. Because one thing we need to understand is, apart from the 8 years, if you pass the 8 years, this next stage is the human being. And for some of these roles, they probably have the same set of people in the same organization looking at it. These are the things I just want to point out at this point in time. Moyo. Okay, I'm not sure if Moyo is here, but does anyone have any questions regarding what I just stated while we wait for him?
Okay. I don't know. My video is just being funny. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm just about to my video is just coming up now. Right. So thank you so much for that session. I'm sure get a couple of things in what's it called? What you have said regarding the tools. I mean, like, even I was going to say that if anybody also needs help with using ChatGPT in applying for roles, I could also help with that. And then earlier, I mean, I'm sure it was, I mean, like I said earlier, that, you know, we should try to look at what is in our experience to tailor it to what is in by anything. We're just telling you to be able to, like, come, this is the role I was given, but these are the job things I did, and that would not be classified as a lie in itself. So we are not encouraging you to lie in your CV, but we are just encouraging you to ensure that you're able to describe what you need to tell on that on the CV to be able to get you that interview and be able to succeed in whatever you need to do. So at this point, we would like to take questions. So if you have any question, you can unmute and just pop it up and let's know who you're directing it to, or maybe all the panelists can just come on video and then we'll probably take it as the question. So we'll also invite Olubukola to just come on video so that we can just take the question. So just raise your hands and then I'm monitoring and then I'll be able to take whatever questions you have. So any questions from the participants? So while we are trying to prepare a question, my question will first go to Olubukola, and I hope she can hear me. Okay, I prepared a series of questions. So if she's not here yet, I will just go to the next question to Okpe. Now, you talked about reaching out to people to have an advocate, to be able to recommend you for roles. How best is it to, how best can one get that done? Because, it's a lot of times you even talk to people on LinkedIn, some will respond, some may not respond. Are there other ways that, you could recommend? I know one of the things that we were told in business school is always reach out to your Warwick alumni community. If you're applying for a role, check on LinkedIn if there's any person from your either Warwick community or probably your first degree community to help you with a recommendation, or probably if there's any role in the organization that is advertised internally. So are you able to speak more about that networking part of it?
Yes, I'm able to do that. It's very important to have an advocate, and going about it, there are various options that we need to do. But the first thing foremost is you need to have some kind of connection with the people you are reaching out to. If you reach out to someone and you do not have any connection with them, if they are unable to relate with you, if they are unable to see value, first and foremost, if they are unable to relate with you, it might be difficult. And secondly, if they don't see value in what you are offering, or they feel their time might be best spent, for example, lack of a better option, if they would rather watch Netflix because what you are saying doesn't make sense, they'll just not respond to you. So you have to start from that emotional connection. And how do you do that? You have to be part of a group that they identify with. And this is how I do it. I look for people, first and foremost, that have gone to, because I'm trying to apply for roles in the United Kingdom. People that have gone to Warwick. Warwick actually has a good name. It might be some other people might not be that lucky to have gone to maybe such a prestigious school. But for me, because I've been able to go there, I look out for graduates also from Warwick Business School, first and foremost, before I even look out for people from Warwick University. And when I'm introducing myself, I'm able to say, hi, I'm Okpe Simpson, and I'm an MBA graduate of. The first thing you introduce yourself with is that connection. You establish it first and foremost, so that they know where they're able to say, oh, you're reaching out because we share a mutual connection. I went to Unilag for my first degree. For sometimes when I reach out to people and they probably have gone to Unilag. Hi, I'm Okpe Simpson. I'm a graduate of economics from Unilag. You have to establish why, first and foremost, who you are before why you're getting in touch with them. So who you are is very important, and the best way to do that is addressing that emotional or societal connection that they have with you. Secondly, when I'm unable to find people where, for example, if we didn't go to the same school, the next thing I try and do is get in touch with people of the same color as my son. There's a deep understanding of what it is to succeed in an environment where you're a minority. And so when you reach out to them, they already understand where you're coming from. So school, then people of color that are similar to us. That doesn't mean that if you do not find these people, you shouldn't reach out to other people of other races. But try as much as possible to reach out with these people that you find a connection with. As soon as you do that, you introduce yourself, you state an introduction, you state what exactly you want from them. It's not enough to say, hi, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. 1,001 people want to connect with managers all over the world, with senior management all over the world. But that isn't going to work out for them. You have to be able to state a clear purpose. And I'm going to share an email example, a LinkedIn example for the connection of the, for this purpose. Please give me a second while I try and open my LinkedIn. Sorry, just give me a second, Milan.
While you're trying to pull that up, I would also just, reiterate a bit about, that finding the connection, probably specifically to NHS, because I know someone who got a role by calling the hiring manager and offering to come in to see how they work. Some NHS trust or even job ads specify that call in for questions, or if you want to schedule a visit to to just understand the environment. So he called this person up and he scheduled a 30 minutes. He went there, met with them. I mean, this is the person you will also meet in the in the job interview. So you're able to establish a rapport, you're able to speak about a lot of things that will not come up during the interview session. So that will also be a way to do a network. I'll just get a rapport, and I'm sure maybe after Okwe speaks, Buki can share more light on that as well.
So this is someone I reached out to. I actually had interviewed at this particular organization, Ontario's Teachers Pensions Plan. They're one of the largest asset managers in the world. And I'm actually trying to make this as large as possible, but I'm not sure how I can. Okay. I'm not sure how to make it large, but let me drop this. Okay. Anyway, so this was me. In December, I was considering either my PhD or a role, and I was running them at the same time because I wasn't sure which one would come first. So when I had already applied for a role and I'd had a previous interview, and then that didn't go anywhere, but I was quite interested in Ontario's Teachers Pensions Plan. And I looked for people that I could relate with, that was senior management. Now, one thing you need to be bold about is reaching out. I'm trying to open the man's profile. One thing you need to be able to be bold about is to reach out to people that you share, that are not only do you share a similar cultural or societal background with, you need to be able to reach out to them at the highest level. This is the chief economist of this organization. He sits on the board. He's a pretty high up man at this point in time. And he was also a DEI advocate. So it was something where I actively, in any organization I want to go into, I actively go through the list of people at the top of that organization, see anyone I have a connection with, and add them. And another thing I noticed about this individual was he went to, I think he went to Warwick at some point in time. Yes, he had his MSc in Warwick. So it was something where, oh, this guy is a black man. Okay, he's a DEI advocate. And we also went to the same university together. So what did I do? I reached out to him. And everything else. Yes. So what I did was I reached out to him and I sent him a Happy New Year message. Hello, Milan. Happy New Year. I trust this message finds you well. I am Okwe Simpson, an MBA graduate from Warwick Business School. Remember what I said, when you're going in, you have to be able to establish that connection as soon as possible. He had his MSc in Warwick. I was able to point out that I graduated from Warwick as soon as possible. If it's not Warwick, whatever you have, whatever connection, state it as soon as possible. State it as soon as possible. And then the next thing you do is you reach out with your value proposition. And this was mine. Over the last few years, I have been keenly observing OTPP's activities, and I'm particularly impressed with your role as the chief economic. You butter up the person. You ensure that you're trying to, people have, no matter how high up they are, people have egos, and you need to ensure that you speak to their egos. Going so far, you have to be able to manage upwards, and you have upwards, even if you're not in that organization, and you have to be able to make them happy, make them feel important. And that's what I did. Your efforts in guiding the right economic assumptions and investment strategies to maintain a positively funded ratio for the OTPP scheme and the current macroeconomic and amidst the current macroeconomic and geographic and geopolitical challenges are truly commendable. And then next, at this point in time, I hadn't yet applied for a role, even though I was looking for a role within the organization. The next thing was, I'm eager to learn more about OTPP, about how OTPP aligns its investment assumptions with the risks it faces, particularly in sectors like commercial real estate, which encounter significant challenges. Given OTPP's fund investment approach, I believe there will be valuable insights to explore. Now, let me break down what this is. I've spoken to what the issues that the organization faces. I'm able to pinpoint exact issues that they face. I'm also able to tell them what their investment strategy is. So you have to show that you are not just calling that, please help me. You have to show that you're able to offer value to this individual, that this individual is able to, you're able to speak to him and is able to see that you know what you want from this organization. You know exactly how to go across about this. And I stated I would greatly appreciate the opportunity for a virtual coffee because he's in Toronto, so we couldn't meet face to face. But if it's possible, try and meet face to face. I'll greatly appreciate the opportunity for a virtual coffee chat at your earliest convenience to discuss these aspects in more detail. Thank you for considering my request. I'm looking forward to the possibility of connecting and gaining insight from your experience. And he answered back, and he gave me my email. And after, there were some other emails, there were some other things that we shared offline. And basically what he told me, when I told him that there was actually a particular role, and I had almost gotten admission in PhD, he advised me quite candidly that even though it wasn't the response I wanted, but I was grateful for that response. He advised me that that I should face the PhD, and he told me his own experience. He had something of my own experience when he wasn't able to go into business straight away. He went to PhD. He told me to face the PhD, and that at the end of the day, and once I graduate or something, that I will be able to get better opportunities. He didn't give me the answer I wanted, but I thank him very much for this. And then offline, I probably will share that email soon. I kept in touch with him. See, you might not get the right response you want the first time, but always keep in touch as long as you don't become a pest. That's one important thing. You should never become a pest to anybody that you reach out to. If they don't answer your first mail and they don't answer your second mail, keep it moving. You might come back a year later, but at least don't be pestering them. And so what I did was, I did my PhD applications, even though I had already known I was almost going to get it. I eventually got it. And once I got my offer, I reached out to him and I stated this, I'll share the email again. I stated I had gotten in and I wanted him to be a mentor for me. And immediately I said that, he responded back to me and he stated that what he stated to me was he would gladly be a mentor to me and that I should keep in touch so that he knows when I graduate, so that he'll be able to bring me in. Now, this is someone that I've proven to that I understand what the business is about. I've proven that I'm trying to upgrade myself. And he has seen value in what I'm proposing. And therefore, he has accepted me as a mentee. In everything that you go into, ensure that you're able to show that you are of value. If you are not of value, they will not answer your emails. I will reiterate that once again. Show how you can benefit that person or benefit the organization. Hold on, let me share this. Please give me a second. Let me share this. Give me a second. Where's this email? Let me just share my screen. Sorry. And this is my conversation with him after I told him I had gotten in. He told me, congratulations, please keep in touch. When next he's in London, he will reach out to me. And what have I done? I've already built an advocate. If I need to get into this organization in future, he'll be able to advocate on my behalf. That's just how, basically how I go about it. Good.
All right, thank you so much, Okwe, for that extensive and pragmatic answer to that question. I would also just reiterate the issue about mentoring. Mentoring is a very, very important aspect of our lives. And honestly, the place of a mentor is what a lot of us have not, realized. They help you navigate the world, be it, spiritually, be it personally, even in financial mentoring, everything. They will help you, help you with what you need to know, because there are always known what you know you don't know, and what you don't know that you don't know, right? And a mentor is able to guide you in that respect. I remember a time when I was leaving my role as a manager for a regional manager role. So my boss then told me, like, okay, where you are going to, do you have an executive sponsor? Like, when the executives are discussing, who will speak for you? It got me thinking, like, what does it mean that way? Because as you also progress in your career, your decisions affect you faster when you move up, right? Because a decision to do some things are done behind closed doors, and when people will be able to speak for you when you don't know. I've heard a couple of world-class speakers also speak to this. And I told them, oh, the COO is actually the one that job hunted me. And, we used to work together, and it was like fantastic, so it's good to just understand the place of mentoring. You might get a mentor more advanced than you. You can get a peer mentor. Like the people on this call are my mentors, So it's peer mentoring, right? You also mentor each other, like, oh, this is this and that is great. Because of course, navigating in NHS, Kala got into NHS before me, and she had to tell me, a lot of things. And we shared, last time we spoke, we also shared a lot of ideas, and so the place of mentoring is quite important. So if Bukola can also speak a bit about reaching out to people in NHS, and maybe in the next 3 minutes, that would be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd say anything that you can do that will give you an edge and make you a step above those you are applying with, please do it. And reaching out to someone hiring might just be that, like the hiring manager whose information will always be visible on the application page will always be. Sometimes hiring managers are fatigued. Like sometimes I was thinking, oh my God, all this, like you have like 5 people who are very similar. There's no, there's no, one is not particularly greater than the other. And I'll give you an example. One of the hirings I did, lower band medical secretary hiring, and this lady, we had 2 major candidates that we were considering. One was internally, a medical secretary internally in the trust. Another was a lady who had worked in the NHS and had gone to work in a school because of childcare, and her children were older, and then she was coming back she wanted to come back into interest. She was now free from childcare, and she was just looking at her. Both of them were almost toe to toe. And the reason why we picked this other lady was because, number one, she had reached out to me, and number two, we felt her reasons were valid. It wasn't the medical secretary in-house was obviously a better medical secretary than this lady who was a secretary in a school. She had been in a secretary in school for the past few years, but reached out to her because, number one, we could identify to her as mothers. As mothers with little children, we could identify, and we thought that she would learn fast. And she did learn fast. She came in, she was a perfect fit. So whatever you can do that will put you at edge. When I was looking for roles, they used to tell me this, I reach out to hiring manager, and I used to think, what will I say to the hiring manager? I don't even know what I want to ask. But sometimes if someone just sends me an email, maybe I've advertised for a role, someone sends me an email and say, oh, please, I'm interested in this role. Sometimes I'm even the one that takes it up and starts, and maybe they said I want to they call me. I'm the one that starts talking. Immediately they identify themselves, they identify why they are calling. I just take up the conversation, because I know that I've also been on that other side where I'm not even sure. So I'll always encourage you, reach out. Even if you don't understand the rule, it's not going to work against you. If anything, it will work in your favor. And trust me, they would always look out for you at the interview that, oh, this lady, they can even tell the other members of the panel, oh, this lady reached out to me. She seemed really interested. She seemed really enthusiastic. Because we're also looking for people who are enthusiastic, who are motivated, who are quite excited about coming into the role. When you don't show excitement in your interview, I remember I was on a panel and someone was saying, oh, this lady needs to show excitement. And I was like, I don't quite think so. I think it's about temperament. And I was making a case for the lady because I just feel she's a laid back person. I mean, because I have a few friends that are laid back, that excitement doesn't really show on their face. But me, if I'm excited, I'm sure we know. But I also understand that, so anything you can do to put you a shoulder ahead of your contemporaries, please do, because trust me, a lot of applications, in some cases, there are people who are exceptionally good who will go for, obviously, without, but in some cases, you are toe to toe with a lot of other people. So if reaching out is that thing, I've given you some other examples, like this woman who shared with us that, she had been away because of childcare and she was coming back, and that just resonated with me and the other members. Fortunately for her, all the members of the team were women who had children, so that resonates. So whatever it is, that can. I remember an application, a lady put in that it was about something in health. I can't remember the position. Okay, I think it was the pathway coordinator. And she had put in that we asked if she had the knowledge of the service. And she put in that her brother it was a neuromuscular service, and her brother had a neuromuscular condition, and that had made her read a lot about neuromuscular condition. That do you get where I'm coming from? She didn't have any experience about that, but her saying that her brother had it and her and her mother usually exchange information about that a similar condition, that just so resonated with us that in fact I remember she got an interview invite based off of, and this is NHS. Please note that all the things I'm saying are really for NHS. It might not be the same for corporate, but in NHS, such things, really work in your favor. So please, please, and please reach out to that hiring manager, read about the service, read about the division. In some cases, they might not put the exact service you're going to work in. Like when I got my role as an assistant service manager, they were multi-hiring, so they were like 5. So they didn't put the exact service, but read about the hospital, read about the division. Hospitals are governed in divisions. Read about the divisions, know everything you can about the role, and just ask a generic question. And please, one thing I also want is when you go for interviews, please always have a question for the interview panel. Always, they will ask you, do you have a question? Do you have any question for us? Please always think of something intelligent to ask them. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Bukola, for that. And a little bit about the story you shared, I think resonates with the next question I was going to ask you, which is about, what should people do, especially when they are bent on NHS experience for the role. Because, a lot of times people are just taken out of, application process or the interview because, they have somebody who is much experienced. But what you've said can also bridge that gap in the sense that you've connected with this person. I know, you've connected with this person. This person has been in the NHS as a user and not as a worker, because with the neuromuscular disease patient, they will be going in and out of the hospital on chronic ailments and such. And speaking more on that, I remember in this particular trust as myself, when I was interviewing, I've not worked on any EPR system for the NHS before. I've worked on EPR system, on a smaller scale in Nigeria, but I was able to talk about the EPR system I used within the NHS as a user. So I've had 2 roles, a band 2 role and a band 4 role, right? And, as a band 2 role, I have to enter some data into Real. In band 4 as well, I had to enter data into Keynote. So, and I was able to articulate the possible improvements I can make in those 2 applications to the interview panel. And everybody, both of them had used those technology before, and they were able to agree with me. So that's really, and the first one was as a support worker. The second one, I was a triage clinician. So it was a band 4 role, and I was interviewing for a band 7 role. So, that was able to help me bridge you've not had enough project management experience in NHS, because, I was able to just okay, I have project manager experience and I have experience with EPR systems that within the NHS. So, are there other things people can do to bridge? Because it's a big issue, when, people interview and they tell them that, we went for somebody who has an NHS experience. I recently had someone who they said our presentation was brilliant, but they will go for somebody in NHS experience. I know that what you said earlier about building rapport. If you probably she had gone to meet them, seeing how they work, and just build rapport, that would she knows what she's doing, she this and that and everything. They can probably be able to relate with her more. But but for the first instance, they're just saying, this person is brilliant. But so are there other things that people can do? So we've mentioned 2 things now, calling to build rapport. If you have had probably agency or distant roles within the NHS, how have you interacted with the process? That's 2. Is there any other thing that people that would require NHS experience to secure roles that they can do?
To me, I'd say volunteering. Volunteering is a big one. You can volunteer in your local trust. You can join the bank shifts of, if you are For example, you're working as a support worker in an agency that's, paying, but you want to go get into the NHS. You can sign up for the bank pool in a similar role in the NHS trust in your city. So you are not their main staff, you are just the bank staff. When they need, then they have shifts, they put out, they have work, they put it out. You are gaining experience gradually that way. It might just be maybe once a month, twice a month, but you are using their systems, their processes, you are gaining, and you can use that as a leverage to gain NHS experience. Now, I also want to mention this, I remember at my graduation where, of course, we had all been looking for jobs, and this lady came in as a graduate in my department, and we all didn't know her. So she said, oh, she was a part-time, that she was working in the NHS, and they did it part-time. There are a few of them that the others didn't come. And I want to mention here that she's an hijabi. And my friend who were, talking to her together is also an hijabi. So my friend who is Malaysian now reached out to her. This lady is like Sudanese English. And I mentioned the hijabi because of what I'm going to say next. Asked her that, is it because of the hijab that they are not considering her for roles? I was looking at my friend, that I'm not wearing hijab, are they considering me for roles? The lady now said, no, that it's not like that. That actually she's in the NHS now, that she's a staff in the NHS. That, to be honest, it's not that. That the truth is that even some roles that are advertised, they already have their internal candidates that they want to give it to. Do you understand? But because of regulations, they have to do the interview process. So even if you are the best thing since sliced bread, you will not get that job because they have the person there. So she was the one that told her that, see, don't feel bad, just continue applying. Sometimes you feel you have aced the interview, you have eaten it, you left no crumbs. But because they have the person that they want to give it to, they're just not good. So I understand that I've been there, done that, checked it. I have the battle scars for the application process and the rejection letters. Both bars. If I remember that the first job I got, when they called me, I thought it was under unfortunately. So I just put the phone on speaker so that I don't have to relay to my husband that they've given me another rejection, because just to avoid, I just put your speaker, dumped it on the bed, and I tuned off until I heard, are you happy to accept? And I just, oh my God, I've gotten the, do you understand? So I'm also trying to prepare you. This is just going further that you will get the rejection letters. To be honest, your first few tries might just be a learning process. They will come, but don't give up. Keep at it. It's like keep at it. All of us then that were keeping, we all got roles, we all got into somewhere. So yes, you need that, you want that edge. Yes, sometimes you don't have that NHS experience. You just don't have it. You can build rapport, you can establish relationship, you can do all of that. But even if you don't get the roles, drop it aside, pick yourself up, saddle yourself up, and continue applying. I hope I've answered the question and some more.
Yes, you've answered the question and even given more. So, I mean, essentially, you said you can have a volunteer role, which was also emphasized by the panelists last webinar series for the first webinar, that volunteering is quite an important place to just get the requisite experience. You are able to interact with them. And example, and then bank roles. There's an individual in my trust now, is also a Nigerian. He actually got a bank role. He worked for 2 months, applied for another role as a data analyst, and he got the data analyst role. Mind you, he does not have any experience in data analysis, but he has had the training. Right, so but he was able to get in. So those are just little ways people can volunteering. It could be as the breather in the trust, or some other, there are usually volunteering roles that are opened in the trust, or like she said as well, bank pool. The bank pool are not usually open to NHS job sites. You might probably have to go into that particular trust site and then be able to get into the pool, as a support worker or administrative support, and then you will be able to just have that experience. So thank you, and thank you so much to our speakers that have been amazing on this call. And I don't know if there's any question from the audience. While we're waiting for any question from the audience, I will just also enjoin any of the speakers to put in their LinkedIn profile, so that people can also connect, and it's easy. And so, but if you like, at the beginning of the call, at the beginning of different presentations, Okpa was able to offer people possibilities of helping with CV, and that's only limited to people on this call. So we would we'll be able to keep that. Bukola has also offered to help with NHS prep, and so is Dr. Fisayo Abba, who also works with the NHS. She's been helping people tailoring, CVs and get jobs within the NHS. Or for myself as well, you can also reach out to me. I think I'm very proficient in using ChatGPT to answer, to create supporting statements, for NHS roles, and probably covering letters as well. So I'll put in our email for you to reach out to them. We will be able to help you get like a session with them to either help with whichever whatever thing you need, either to tailor your CV or even interview prep as well. Interview prep as well is also quite important. And like we said earlier, key takeaways from me would be that one is understand what you want to do, right? First of all, that will speak to be understanding your purpose, really. And like I said, there's some, if you've not been doing that, you could also get an opportunity to do that. Like our senior pastor, Bishop Bob Alonge, has been able to put up a course. I think there'll be a discount to that. So we'll send that to everyone on the call as an email. To if you need help in that respect, you don't have to do it. The Udemy link, course link, yes, we'll send to everybody on LinkedIn. So there is also a discount code that will be attached to that. So TFLs will be able, you registered online, then we'll be able to send that. Also, there's also a recording regarding manifestations of your desires and the rest of them, and that would also come to you free of charge. It's not anything you should worry about. And then if you need to also reach out to our senior pastors, that's Bishop Bob Alonge or Reverend Teju Alonge, if you want to go deeper in faith, you can book a counseling session with them. That link will also be sent to you, and they will be able to counsel you. They are the chief steward of International Chapel Coventry, and the mission for them was to support international candidates in helping them achieve what they need to achieve in the world. So, you know, being purpose driven is big for them. Being also being supported spiritual is also big for them. And then being supported in material things is also big for them. We have a lot of partners that contribute food items and groceries that we distribute to students every Sunday in the evening. So that is also quite what's it called, important for them. And if you probably have an opportunity to also get more groceries for students, that would also be what's it called, that will also be appreciated. You can reach out to us via the ichapelcoventry@gmail.com to, if you have anything that on, maybe you are moving places and you need to give something out to people, you can reach out to us as well. Then we can probably direct it to an international candidate that is just looking for something. So these are just what we do at Safe House, and we encourage you to just I think someone has a question. Yeah. I encourage you to also just be a participant. You can also come and volunteer in reaching out to international candidates as well. So if, like we said, volunteering is key. If you want to reach out as a volunteer, please also send an email to that address, and then we'll get back to you. So Reverend Teju, are you online now? She's actually in transit. If she probably just has, you know, one or two things to say before we go ahead. I'm not sure she's online. Okay. All right. I don't think she's able to speak at the moment. So it's already 2 o'clock now, and we'll be looking to just you know, close as soon as possible. LinkedIn, okay, Olubukola is here to send us a LinkedIn profile. So we'll put that there. Do I have a LinkedIn profile as well? I think I do. And let me quickly also just put that in so that we can all get connected. Okay, my name is on LinkedIn. Yeah, so that's my name on LinkedIn if you also want to get connected as well. So any questions or feedback before we close this session? It's been an amazing session, and I've been able to learn a lot from my peer mentors. And like I said, Dr. Fisayo is also available. Unfortunately, she's not able to speak because she's also in transit. She's also available to, you know, help people with transiting into the NHS. She is based in Essex side, that's nearer to London. And before we even go, can we all just put in the chat where we're connecting from so that we are able to just know, you know, probably have other resource around you that can probably help with you. So if you can, if it's okay, just let us know where you're connecting from. Okay, Hope is connected from Coventry. Theophilus is connected from Hope is connected from Birmingham. Theophilus connected from Coventry. Godia, Warsaw. Okay, Fini Follower is connected from Leicester. Oluwatoga's connected from Warwick. Oh, okay. Right. So, wow, we are mostly in West Midlands, except for Okwe Simpson that's in London. Okay, Marcelina is connected from Manchester. That's outside West Midlands. So, like we said, let's get connected. If you, like I said, with the Safe House. If you want to also volunteer with Safe House, that's also quite impressive. Like I said, the senior pastor and associate senior pastor also invested in getting people to deeper in their faith and also their calling as a purpose. So if you also need to connect and book a session with them, you will get emails within the next 24 to 48 hours regarding the session, and that will help you with post-webinar resources. let's look forward to our next webinar session to support international candidates. That will be next month in August. And thank you, Esther, for connecting from Coventry as well. And okay, Theophilus is saying a big thank you, a huge thank you to the facilitators for an excellent session. We also thank you for your presence, Theophilus, and we thank you for everyone that connected. And we will stay in touch and also let you know what we'll be doing next webinar series. Thank you and have an amazing weekend ahead.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
was
Thank you.
Thank you.